In this video, I'm going to unbox Sony's new XE93 series, one of the most anticipated Bravia television for 2017. I'm also going to explore the user menu to see if there's anything new in terms of picture settings. Coming right up. The Bravia XE93 is one of Sony's high-end LED LCD for 2017. The equivalent model in the USA is the X930E. We've received the 55-inch UK version for review, known as the KD-55XE9305. It features a slim backlight drive plus technology which tries to deliver local dimming qualities from an H-lit LED backlight and Android TV system. Without further ado, let's get on with the unboxing. Okay, so we've assembled the Sony 55XE93 and it's actually heavier than it looks. We've hooked it up to an Oppo 203 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player. Let's go through the user menu and explore the picture settings. Click on Picture. The most accurate picture mode is the Cinema Pro preset. The first thing we notice immediately is that this TV is a light cannon. If you switch light sensor off, it gives you 500 nits even in Cinema Pro mode with the default settings. So I would suggest that you turn brightness down to a more reasonable value for your environment, especially if you are watching it in the dark. We need to explain a bit about the nomenclature of the picture affecting controls on Sony TVs since 2015. It's technically more correct, but it may be confusing for some users since it's very different from other TV brands. So if we go into advanced settings, under brightness dictates the light output from the TV. On other TV brands, this is usually labeled as backlight. Contrast is the same as other brands. This is where you set peak white without affecting blacks. Gamma is used to adjust how fast you want blacks to transition into dark grays and midtones. In a brighter room or during daytime, our pupils constrict and we have more difficulty picking up shadow detail. So you need help from the TV by using the gamma control to lift shadow detail so they become more visible in the day. Black level allow you to set video black on the TV. On other TVs, this is usually labeled as brightness. A correct black level setting preserves the deepest blacks from the display without crushing shadow detail. Advanced Contrast Enhancer is basically dynamic contrast stretching. Auto local dimming activates the pseudo local dimming system on the XE93 or X930E. There are three intensities: low, medium, and high. The higher the strength, the more aggressive the dimming at the expense of introducing more blooming or haloing artifacts around bright objects against a dark background. Extended dynamic range, we tend to leave it off for SDR since it can blow out bright highlights, but it's necessary for HDR to achieve the maximum peak brightness that the display is capable of. Let's go into the color submenu. Like all Sony TVs we've tested so far, there's only global color and hue controls and no advanced CMS or color management system. Advanced color temperature allows you to set the 2-point and 10-point white balance. The RGB gain affects the brighter portion of the image, whereas the RGB bias affects the darker portion. There's also a 10-point control, 10-point white balance control called color gamma adjustment points, which allows you to calibrate each 10% video stimulus interval. What's important to remember is that the 10-point white balance settings within one color temperature preset is shared even between different picture modes and different HDMI inputs. So if you've used Expert 1 for SDR, you have to use Expert 2 for HDR, Neutral for games, and so on and so forth. I guess having no 3D on the XE93 is a blessing in disguise because soon we'll run out of the number of color temperature preset to calibrate. Moving on to the clarity submenu, we really like the smooth gradation feature. It was omitted since 2015 on Sony televisions, but was reintroduced on last year's Sony ZD9. And because the XE93 or X930E uses the same X1 Extreme chipset as the ZD9, you can see the feature here too. What this feature does is to apply a higher bit processing, maybe even up to 14 bits, to lower quality sources to smooth out posterization. You know, sometimes in smooth gradients, such as sky, you can see distinct steps or striping, especially if the source is poor. Well, smooth gradation usually works quite well to reduce the posterization, and Sony is the only manufacturer we know of to offer such a function in the user menu. In the motion submenu, you can find the motion flow and the film mode controls. Motion flow is basically Sony's motion processing technology, and what's interesting is if you set it to custom, you can adjust smoothness, which is motion interpolation, and clearness, which is backlight scanning, separately. Film mode is for film versus video mode deinterlacing. We feel Sony has actually offered too many options here rather than a simple on-off system, because using the wrong settings with the film mode may introduce tearing artifacts in scrolling news ticker or soap opera effects in movies. We first saw the video options submenu on last year's Sony ZD9, and it's available on the KD-55XE9305 too, since it uses the same underlying chipset. In our opinion, this is the biggest upgrade from last year's XD93 or XD94, or even the X93C from 2015. The reason is this: when you play HDR content on these older Sony Bravias, whether it's a Sony 4K Blu-ray movie or a HDR game from PS4 Pro or Xbox One S, it only goes into one picture mode, the HDR Video Mode. On the ZD9 and the XE93, because of the presence of this video options submenu, you can actually select different picture presets even in HDR mode. So for example, you can select game mode for the lowest input lag when playing HDR games, and another picture preset for the best picture quality for watching 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays. Another advantage of this video options is Let's say you are a DIY enthusiast or a calibrator who can't afford to buy a true HDR signal generator like this Moridio Fresco 6.3 generator I have here. You can use HDR mode and color space to force HDR mode and BT2020 color gamut for HDR calibrations, even from an SDR testis or pattern generator. Panasonic was first to implement this level of control on their DX902 or DX900 series. Sony followed soon with the ZD9, and this year Samsung are going to offer this functionality too. So we have unboxed the Sony XE93 and explained various picture settings in the user menu. If you have found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for future videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.